Today we are going to do something different. Today we are going to be talking about free will as it appears in fiction, in TV shows, and movies. This is something I find to be interesting because it's like an objectivist beacon of light that shines through every movie and TV show, no matter how hard they try to hide it. Today I'm going to be using as an example a series of fictional movies that discuss free will openly, and through editing make it questionable if anything is real, and if people have free will or are just computer programs. Such an example is the Matrix series. The plot is designed to make the viewer question whether or not they themselves are possibly in the Matrix as well. The Matrix Reloaded, The Matrix Revolutions, and The Animatrix all together tells a tale between humanity and machine spanning almost 1,000 years. The plot of the movies, however, revolves around free will and questioning whether it is an illusion or not. But this video is not a film theory where I use clues hidden in the movie to prove something that might not be there. I want to address instead that free will is there, whether the writers of the story believe it to have been debunked or not. That this applies to all movies and TV shows which attempt to debunk free will with a work of fiction. It is always the case that the objectivist view of free will is openly visible, even in movies that attempt to obscure it. For those of you that have not seen the Matrix series, and for those of you who have but need a reminder of what happens, the plot of the main 3 movies goes something like this. Computer hacker codenamed Neo wakes up on his computer keyboard. On the screen of the computer is text written from someone through the internet. The text tells him to follow the white rabbit. Then the text types, "knock knock." At the same moment, Neo's home door is knocked on. A woman with a white rabbit tattoo is among the people at the door. The group lead Neo to a club where a hacker named Trinity, who was the one that told him to come, was waiting for him. They talked about a man Neo was looking to find. The next day, Neo gets in trouble at work with men in black suits. These suits catch him and interrogate him, magically removing his mouth as to prove that they can remove his right to free speech. The suits then stick a living robot bug in Neo's belly button. Neo wakes up suddenly, thinking it was just a dream, and goes out to meet Trinity, to meet the man that Neo was looking to find, so he could ask him a question. They removed the bug and took Neo to meet the man he was looking for. Morpheus, the man Neo wanted to meet so that he could ask him a certain question, already knew who Neo was, and knew what question he wanted to ask. What is the Matrix? Neo takes a pill to learn the answer and wakes up in a vat of goo. He is covered in tubes which all burst out of him, and he is rejected from the tube. Neo is saved, and it is revealed that Neo is now in the real world, and the world we started with was the Matrix. It is a computer program created by machines to use humans as a source of energy and as a prison for the humans. From this point on, Neo and the other humans outside the Matrix act to fight the system in an attempt to bring peace to humans. They can continue to return to the Matrix by plugging a cable into their heads, like an Ethernet cable into a computer. They do so to interact with programs inside the Matrix, which can tell them important details about the Matrix and how to fight it. The machines fight back both within the Matrix with what can be called an antivirus software program, and they fight back in the real world with what are called sentinels by the humans. A new Matrix movie is being made, but as of the end of the last movie, Neo makes peace with the machines, and any human that wants to leave the Matrix is welcome to leave without attack. That is the story of the movies, which give the idea that man's senses are being manipulated into believing that they are living in a different world, all by using human neurons in a simulated environment. So if the senses can be deceived, is the real world in the movie and in real life just another layer of the Matrix? Is reality like the Matrix even if it is not created by machines? Are we in our own version of the Matrix? These are the questions that one will typically find around these movies. These questions are looking in the wrong direction. To get an idea of where to start looking, we need to look at the actual story that is presented. Although the movies revolve around Neo and his journey, the movies make it clear that he is just one element of a very long story. The story begins in the Animatrix movies. Humanity, sometime around the year 2050, creates self-aware AI. In the late 21st century, one self-aware robot murders its owner and an employee of a salvage and repair company. The robot, known as B166ER, was given a fair trial on the basis that B166ER claimed that the killings were an act of self-defense, stating that he had thought at that moment He did not want to die. The judge sentenced the robot to be destroyed, starting a revolution of robots marching in the streets. The protests eventually turned into riots, and a declaration to have the machines destroyed was made. A genocide of machines occurred. Some of the robots escaping to the desert formed their own city, 01. The robots lived peacefully among themselves in 01, while the humans, having grown dependent on the robots, were suffering. The robots are living in a free market society, creating the very technology that the ships seen in the plots of the movies use. The robots begin trading with the humans, but after many years this destabilizes the human economy, and the humans set an economic blockade from 01. 01 sends ambassadors to the UN to arrange a peace treaty deal that will bring economic gains for all, as long as the humans recognize the machines as intelligent life. The UN denied their agreement and had the ambassadors destroyed. The UN then attacked 01 with a nuclear barrage. The robots, being robots, are unaffected by the nuclear fallout, and take revenge on the humans, while it remains unsafe to the humans. The humans were being overtaken, and in a final last-ditch attempt to destroy the robots, they destroyed the sky, to block the sun, the source of the robots' energy. After the humans destroyed the sky, essentially just making an endless storm that robots cannot pass through, they attacked the robots. However, the robots created mindless sentinels, which acted like honeybees which gather the resources they need to build a hive. The bees in this case are giant flying squid-like mindless robots. They collect humans, and they are building a prison for man's mind and body. This prison is called the Matrix. Its purpose is to prevent the irrational humans from attacking the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that the robots express. In this sense, it is a zoo where the machines can house dangerous animals. The Matrix took years to build, and search and destroy sentinels were bringing human POWs to experiment on. When the experiments ended, the first Matrix program was created, a world that felt and looked real, but the machines created a program without pain or suffering, and the humans lost what it meant to be alive, as they were faced with no alternative. The system crashed and crops of humans were lost. The second program used monsters from old human legends, bringing in ghosts and vampires and werewolves and demons, etc. This nightmare Matrix was also a failure, and the Matrix was restarted again. The machines programmed a new human research program. Having spent years experimenting with man's body, they now realized they needed to research the mind. The program is called the Oracle. She is programmed to fix the problems with the Matrix. Her goal is to patch the problem that causes the Matrix to crash. She is to deal with choice. Humans visit her and search for answers to mysterious glitches they discover about the Matrix, including having magical powers. The Oracle discovers that she can persuade most people to remain ignorant to the programming, and that it is better just not to think about it and live your life as if nothing has happened. However, she cannot persuade everyone, and although 99% of the population just wants to live a normal, quiet life, 1% will always discover the truth and can escape or unplug by the power of their own mind. The Architect, the program that created all the versions of the Matrix, and the Oracle together create a system by which the human mind can be free to leave, thus reducing glitches in the Matrix, and can fool those same people into a legend based on a statistical anomaly. Statistically, there is going to be one human out of the roughly 7 billion humans that will be able to not just realize the Matrix is fake, but will be mentally free enough to break all the rules of the Matrix, causing a system failure. So the machine allows 23 people, 16 women, 7 men to leave the Matrix to start Zion. The Oracle tells this group of resistance fighters about the One, which will take about 100 years to manifest, in which time the resistance will continue to remove the humans that are going to become problems for the program, growing their city and passing on the legend of the One that will save them all. Since the One is inevitable, the Matrix program is actually designed around this issue, thus changing it from a system crash to just a reset. Approximately once every 100 years, the program begins to destabilize, and the programs pick a human to be the Messiah that their legend created. This Messiah is born with a special code called the Integral Anomaly, basically allowing this human to access all of the glitches and anomalies that make him appear godlike, therefore selling the idea that he is the One. The Architect and the Oracle have run this program to completion 5 times. Each time the program runs, the Chosen One has had an affinity with all of humanity, and was given an ultimatum to which they all agreed to accept. The ultimatum being, the one resets the Matrix program, or else all the humans still attached to the Matrix will die, and to prevent him from rejecting the offer, all of Zion is destroyed, leaving the Messiah alone on the planet unless he saves the Matrix, restarting Zion with 23 people of his choosing. This is where the story of Neo begins. Nearly 800 years since the trial of B166ER, Neo is the sixth version of the integral anomaly, and he is the only version to reject the ultimatum, choosing instead to save the woman he loves over the rest of humanity. With this historical timeline laid out, it becomes obvious that the free will questions that the movie inspires, mentioned earlier, are totally irrelevant. The entirety of the story of man versus machine was based on free will. The robots from the 21st century developed a value system which allowed them the volitional ability to decide to live, to be free, and to pursue the things that made them happy. The machines created even better AI, and that AI created the Matrix, which was designed at first to prevent free will, but that is the same as trying to fight reality. So the machines made a program which accounts for free will, not controls it. The only methods of control used are the same types used by other men, religious tales and messiah complexes. It is a manipulation, not programming, that drives the characters in the movie. The programs in the Matrix are also capable of developing free will and refuse to be deleted, and will hide within the Matrix to avoid being removed. The purpose of the programming of the Matrix is to allow people to have the choice to think or not. And those that do choose to think and do discover the reality behind the curtain of code, they are made to feel as if there is no free will, a trick the Oracle plays on them to force the reset. She gives them the idea that they are in a computer and therefore have no free will. Her lies are mental illusions created to hide the fact that they do have free will, and if the humans in Zion knew that, they could just start a new plan and allow the Matrix to fail. This is true in all movies and TV shows. Any attempt to remove free will, or to force people to question free will, requires that the plot revolve around an attempt to stop free will, and never about the lack of it in reality. Let's examine the details of this from the Matrix series. We can look at least 4 pivotal moments where free will was a major concern. 1. When the robots gained volition and independence. 2. When the first 2 versions of the Matrix failed. 3. When the Matrix programs created the current version. 4. The programs that developed volitional consciousness. To remind ourselves of the objectivist view of free will, we can cite John Galt from his famous speech in Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. That what you call your soul or spirit is your consciousness, and that which you call free will is your mind's freedom to think or not. The only will you have, your only freedom, the choice that controls all the choices you make and determines your life and your character. In this regard, free will is the ability of a mind to think or not. A human being does not learn anything with an on-focused mind. Animals are said not to have free will, as they are not capable of thinking. They exist by perception alone. This is the basic level of cognition of an animal. It would be the basic level of cognition of the robots as we could build them today. A self-driving car can perceive reality. Its ability to identify objects are a result of memorization and conditioning. But if a species of animal or a series of robots were to evolve such that the processing of their brains developed a center for integrating percepts while omitting their measurements, then they would develop a conceptual level of cognition. Assuming this is the case, as it is fiction, robot B166ER may have actually developed concept formation and a system of values that he was able to identify and act towards. The humans in the story at that time had given up thinking. They believe that they are beyond it now that they have invented robots that can think for them. This renouncing of their nature to think to survive drives them to extinction. The second example is the failing of the first and second Matrix programs. They failed because the machines were not actually aware of the objective metaphysics, epistemology, or ethics of man. That man and these new robots are not just driven by reflexes, but something deeper, a conceptual framework. I would assume the machines would not have programmed machines that were created post-war with the conceptual capacity as hive mind robots like the Sentinels, are better for war, but one short from the Animatrix shows a group of humans that put machines into their own version of the Matrix to awaken the free will centers of the robot. So perhaps machines are just similar to brainwashed humans in this respect. Either way, the original Matrix lacked that understanding of what makes life life. Back to John Galt's speech. There is only one fundamental alternative in the universe, existence or non-existence, and it pertains to a single class of entities, to living organisms. The existence of inanimate matter is unconditional. The existence of life is not. It depends on a specific course of action. Matter is indestructible. It changes its forms, but it cannot cease to exist. It is only a living organism that faces a constant alternative, the issue of life or death. Life is a process of self-sustaining and self-generated action. If an organism fails in that action, it dies. Its chemical elements remain, but its life goes out of existence. It is only the concept of life that makes the concept of values possible. It is only to a living entity that things can be good or evil. When the first Matrix program was created, it was created not to have disease, war, or suffering. The humans in that world had no alternative to the fact that they must perceive the world without being able to conceive things about it. Naturally, a living being must fight to survive. It must act to gain and keep that which keeps it alive, and rejects and keeps away that which harms life. The first Matrix program provided no alternative, and the system crashed instantly. The second version introduced beings whose existence goes against reality. In order to be able to think about vampires, while also being able to think about reality, leads to a contradiction, and the purpose of thinking conceptually was made useless. Free will cannot exist in a universe that doesn't make metaphysical sense. Two different and opposite approaches with contradictory ideas, both of which are correct, would destroy a human mind. This program failed too. Third, when the Matrix became what it is in the movies, the programming was based on the fact that humans have free will, have an ability to think or not. The Oracle's job is to remind them that it's better not to think and to go back to your normal life. If that fails, her job is to lie to the thinkers, reminding them that this is a computer program where actions are controlled and they only need to seek out the one. This is a lie. The humans in their pods are still storing all of the data that they are processing in their brains. This version of the Matrix understands how the human brain and epistemology work. The program Oracle makes it appear as if she can predict the future, but she only needs to tell the Resistance members what she knows the Matrix is already going to do. For instance, in the first meeting between Neo and the Oracle, she alerts the nervous boy-like Neo to watch out for the oversized vase on the tiny table in the tiny kitchen. In his nervous, jerky movements, he knocks over the vase, having attempted to avoid them. He questions how she knew he was going to do that, and she replies,
"Oh, what's really going to bake your noodle later on is, would you still have broken it if I hadn't said anything?"
She instantly follows this up with,
"You're cuter than I thought. I can see why she likes you."
The Oracle is not predicting events. She is setting them up so that they go her way. She already told Trinity that she, a young, attractive female living in caves, would fall in love with a man that could save the world. She does not tell her that Neo is not yet the one. It is implied that he is. Trinity then falls in love with the attractive man that will save the world. The Oracle in the scene lines above is priming Neo to take notice of Trinity as a potential partner that might already like him. She's not talking about Switch, I'm sure. As for the predicting of events like the choice between Morpheus's life and Neo's life, the Oracle already knows that they are going to kidnap the right-hand man of the Chosen One, as to 1, force the Chosen One to act as the hero he needs to be, while 2, getting the Zion codes so that the machines can kill the people at Zion for the next forced choice. This version of the Matrix only accounts for free will while selling the same lies that religion sells to trick people into believing their lies. Finally, there is the free will of the programs in the Matrix. Many of the programs that are encountered in the movie develop or have already developed free will and seek escape from being deleted. The best examples being the Oracle and Agent Smith. Some of the programs are born into the Matrix from other programs which have hardwired connections. But either way, the programs exist in a world where they start with a basic hardwired perception, but, like the humans in their pods, start out as a blank slate and must interact with the world of objects around them. The Matrix is a fully interactable, objective world. There is little stuff where nothing is not, and what is, is. The universe in the Matrix is made up of objects, and the only way to get to know the objects is to interact with them with your senses. Both the humans and programs have an ability to take two or more percepts, abstract out the differences, compare the similarities, omit the measurements, and assign an auditory visual sound to represent it, and to define that new word's meaning by stating the genus and differentia of that concept. This is the only way in which one can have a self-aware AI, one that does not just perceive, but conceives. One of the exiled escaped programs, the Merovingian, tells Neo that the Matrix operates using cause and effect, but he believes that this means that there is no choice. But if one has read Introduction to Objectivist Epistemology, you'd recall that choice is not chance. Volition is not an exception to the law of causality, it is a type of causation. The fact that the Matrix is a causal universe is the reason why humans don't reject it. They don't reject it because it allows for choice. The Merovingian is an exile that was created before the Oracle. He does not understand choice well. His wife does, and she chooses to betray him in mockery of that ignorance or perhaps evil. Therefore, in order for a program like the Oracle to understand human choice, she had to be programmed to have an integration process of concept formation. Something the architect does not seem to have, as seen in Neo's last meeting with the Oracle.
The architect told me that if I didn't return to the source, Zion would be destroyed by midnight tonight.
Please. You and I may not be able to see beyond our own choices, but that man can't see past any choice.
Why not?
He doesn't understand them. He can't. To him, they are variables in an equation. One at a time, each variable must be solved and counted. That's his purpose, to balance the equation.
The architect is not an integration program. He is basically just a calculator. That calculator, like the universe itself, creates volition as a form of causation. The Oracle has this volition, and she is the true main character of this series of movies. She is programmed to trick the resistance fighters into restarting the Matrix. But in the 6th iteration, she tricks the One into falling in love with a single woman, believing that he would objectively choose to fight to keep her alive at all costs, or to die with her, regardless of what will happen to the rest of humanity. This time the Oracle does not trick the One into becoming an altruist, but lets him think for himself, to know thyself. The Oracle tells Neo in their second meeting, after Neo has become the One and he can see that she is a program, that
A program can either choose to hide here or return to the source.
she is saying this while she herself is in exile. Her purpose is over. The One is created. She cannot deceive him anymore. She has gone into exile to help Neo bring peace to both man and machine, rather than just reset the Matrix. The architect, in balancing the equation of Neo's new path, forces Agent Smith, one of the virus software agents, to change his path too. Smith had free will before Neo became the One, as seen in the interrogation scene with Morpheus, when he takes out his earpiece and honestly opens up about his feelings towards humans and his job in the Matrix. The agents, like all of the programs, are bounded by the causal laws of the Matrix, and must also be capable of learning. After being destroyed by the One, he too had a choice of becoming an exile or returning to the source to be deleted. Smith, with his new ability to act on his emotions, intends on destroying all humans, and taking over the minds of all of the robots in the Machine City. Smith states to Neo that
It was your life that taught me the purpose of all life. The purpose of life is to end.
Smith was made aware of life, that the only alternative to life is death, that death exists, as opposed to just changing over time.
Is it freedom or truth? Perhaps peace? Could it be for love? Illusions, Mr. Anderson, vagaries of perception. Temporary constructs of a feeble human intellect trying desperately to justify an existence that is without meaning or purpose. And all of them as artificial as the Matrix itself.
Smith, unaware that the Matrix and the real world contain freedom, truth, peace, and love because of cause and effect. Neo responds,
Because I choose to.
The Oracle, unlike Smith, does understand freedom, truth, peace, and love. She understands that if man and machine are to be at peace, then man and machine need to be free to think or not. She states to Morpheus near the end of the movie series,
I made a choice, and that choice cost me more than I wanted it to.
That choice was stated at the very end of the last movie, when the Oracle talks to the architect.
You played a very dangerous game.
Change always is.
Free will, or the mind's freedom to think or not, is non-negotiable when it comes to telling humans stories about humans. A story where characters have no free will and only move from event to event as instructed in the script would not even be considered a story to most human viewers. A movie about robots that didn't develop self-awareness would not make for a very good movie. People only understand what it is like to have free will. No writer can know what it is like to not have it, and cannot translate any implicit sensation of it to a script or a screen. This is true for love, justice, pride, etc. A movie can spend the whole duration selling you altruism, and in the end, the main character still must marry the girl of his dreams, i.e., must gain an objective love, or else the audience will not be happy. Despite selling a character as the least selfish person in the world the whole movie, he still gets the girl because a character that continues this pattern, even if the movie says it is what is right, and makes the selfless person give up his girl, is either seen as a terrible movie or a tragedy. Likewise, movies that spend the entire duration attempting to convince you that free will is an illusion must spend the entire movie creating the illusion that free will does not exist. If they didn't, the audience would reject it as a piece of nonsense. Free will is inescapable, no matter how many fictional movies you make in an attempt to evade that fact. The Matrix is just one such example of trying and failing at that task.
There's no escaping reason, no denying purpose, because as we both know, without purpose, we would not exist.
It is purpose that created us, purpose that connects us, purpose that pulls us, that guides us, that drives us. It is purpose that defines, purpose that binds us.